What's up guys, it's Mitch here from Revolution Music, Film and Photography, and today I'm going to show you guys 5 hacks to getting amazing quality audio in whatever film project you might be doing. So the first and probably easiest and simplest way that you can get amazing quality audio for your film projects is to use a good mic. Right now I'm using a really amazing condenser mic that I actually built myself, but it's a copy of a classic AKG condenser microphone, and that microphone is actually my favorite microphone for vocals, for guitars, and that's the AKG C414. And a little while ago I had an assignment while I was still studying where we had to build our own microphone, and so I built this, and it's actually an amazing microphone, and it's my favorite microphone out of all the gear that I have. But that's not to say you need to make your own microphone. That's just something I want to do. But there are plenty of amazing and affordable condenser microphones for you to use for your film project. There are heaps of different affordable condenser microphones that you can find online on eBay or from music stores or what have you. But if you really want a certain sound, then you should look at the type of microphone that you want to get that kind of sound. There's condenser microphones that people use for their streams, for their normal videos. And if you want that particular sound, you should look at that gear because every microphone has its own sound. One of note is the SM7B, which I also have. I don't use it for these videos, but it's an amazing sounding microphone and it's quite frequently used on podcasts. And if you see podcasts like H3H3, for example, they're using the SM7B and it's a great microphone. It's actually a radio broadcast microphone, and it was designed specifically for that use, and it sounds great. Now, when recording with a condenser microphone, instead of using the inbuilt microphone jack on your camera, you're actually much better using a separate preamp. And a separate preamp will give you much higher quality audio because the circuitry found in the camera's preamp versus the circuitry in a professional quality audio preamp is incredibly different. As you can imagine, the audio quality you get out of a professional preamp is much higher quality than what you're going to get built into your camera. And that's just because, quite simply, a professional quality audio interface has been designed specifically for that purpose, whereas the preamp built into your camera, DSLR or whatever you're using, is limited by size and functionality and a few other things. So if you want amazing audio, the best thing to do is to get a professional quality audio interface that has high quality mic preamps. And I generally use Focusrite interfaces. I've got an 8-channel one that I use when I'm recording bands. And I've also got a 2-channel Focusrite interface that I use for smaller projects like this. But if you use a good quality microphone paired with a great quality preamp, you're going to be on your way to much better quality audio. All right, so the second tip to getting great quality audio is actually something that I've done recently in my own studio, and it's made the space sound so amazing. And that's acoustically treating the room. If you don't know what acoustic treatment is, it's basically putting up anything on the walls or the ceiling or even the floor to improve the acoustic qualities of the room that you're recording in. And this is important because most spaces actually have all kinds of acoustic problems that we need to treat in order to make your audio sound less reflective and more pleasing to the viewer's ears. It can also cut down on outside noise and unwanted low end that you might be getting through your microphones. Acoustic treatment is something that's often overlooked by a lot of people, but it's probably the most important. You could be using a very cheap microphone and make it sound pretty damn good by having it in a good room. And that's why big budget studios will spend so much of their money actually on building and designing the rooms to have the best quality acoustics to record all kinds of music in. I'll put a link down below to how I built all the acoustic panels in this room if anyone wants to check that out. So thirdly, one of the things that is often overlooked by a lot of people is actually mic placement. So mic placement is basically all about where you put your microphone to capture your voice. And that mic placement can make a huge difference on the quality of sound that you capture for whatever subject you're filming. Right now, I've got my microphone sitting just here. It's probably a few inches away from my mouth. I've got it rather close because I want it to enhance the low frequencies of my voice without sounding too boomy, but I don't want it to sound too far away either. And what you would find is if I move the mic closer to my mouth, you would get much more low end and it would sound maybe a bit too boomy. But if I move it too far away, it might actually sound far away and it might pick up too many of the reflections of the room and not sound as nice as I want it to. The best way to figure out the right mic placement for you is to put the microphone about a hand's distance away from your mouth and then start from there and then adjust it to how you want your audio to sound. So the fourth thing to getting great audio is gain staging. Now, I'm not sure how many of you will know what gain staging actually is, but it is the process of adjusting the volume that your microphone is picking up, your voice or whatever other material you might be recording. Now, with gain staging, you obviously don't want the microphone signal to be too loud, because what might happen is that the signal will clip, and that's when you might see like red lights flashing on your interface or whatever you might be using. And the reason why this is bad is because it creates distortions to the sound, and you definitely don't want that. But you also don't want the signal to be too quiet. So the trick is in getting this balance right, and that's what we call gain staging. Now, it's not too complicated. Really, what you want to do is get a signal level that's of a medium range between the highest volume and the lowest volume, and figure out where your voice fluctuates and where it's going to sit and where it will be at a point where it won't clip, but also won't be too quiet. Usually, this is between -6 and -12 dB. If you start around this point, you should have no problems. Number 5 on the list is using EQs. EQ is an abbreviation for equalizer, and an equalizer is basically something that adjusts the low, mids, and high frequencies of whatever audio signal you're recording to manipulate any of the frequency ranges that we hear on the human hearing spectrum. And that's from 20 Hertz to 20 kilohertz. And you can usually see these labeled on any software plugin that you're using as an equalizer. Now, equalizers are used by professional audios when they're recording bands and musicians, but they can also be used by videographers to help get a better final product on the sound sources that they've recorded, or even to further manipulate those sound sources to get a desired effect. Now, if you're a YouTube vlogger and you're just recording your voice, some simple tips could be to use a low frequency roll-off. And a low frequency roll-off or a high pass filter is a great way to roll off any unwanted frequencies at the low end and remove any room rumble or anything that you don't want that's below the frequencies used for speech. Now, if your vocals were sounding a little bit dull, you could brighten them up by boosting some of the high frequencies on an EQ. Or if they're sounding a bit nasally, you could even remove some of the mid-range frequencies at around 1 to 2 kilohertz. These two different ways of using an EQ are actually called additive or subtractive equalization. Additive is when you're boosting frequencies, and subtractive is when you're cutting frequencies. And the secret to being good at using EQ is actually in the way you use additive or subtractive EQ. You can use both of them, but typically if you're using additive EQ, you would boost the frequencies wide with a wide Q or curve. And if you're using subtractive EQ, it's best to use it with a narrow Q or curve because it makes it sound a little bit more subtle. There are heaps of great EQ plugins that you can use. There are some built into Adobe Premiere Pro, and there are also external third-party plugins that you can use for EQs, and I've done a video on that I'll also link below. But these days, most EQ plugins are quite powerful tools no matter where they come from, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you get the quality of audio that you want to achieve. If there's anything I've talked about today that you want more information on, please hit me up in the comment section down below. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm Mitch from Revolution Music, Film and Photography, and I'll catch you soon.